T. Rogers has been linked to the West Coast Black P. Stones for over 50 years, known as the man who founded the Los Angeles Blood Gang. But what most people get wrong when bringing up the name T. Rogers is that a blood gang is not what he intended to create. What he wanted was an organization with rules, regulations, and a street code. But as time went on and new generations stopped following the codes that were set in place, his organization changed. So T. Rogers changed too. T. Rogers was born on December 12, 1956. His early childhood years were spent on the south side of Chicago, Illinois. In the 1960s, Southside Chicago was considered one of the most dangerous areas in the city. Widespread unemployment and poverty had destroyed what used to be middle-class neighborhoods, and gangs took over streets and communities. T. Rogers learned about the streets at 7 years old, taught by older kids from his neighborhood. And by the age of 9, he was a member of Chicago.
And a little player was walking down the street. Welcome to another episode, everyone. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. And as you can hear, we're talking about T. Rogers, the godfather, the leader, the founder of the notorious, infamous Black P. Stones, the Jungles in Los Angeles, California, the Black P. Stone Bloods. This is the founder and how he founded them. He was from Chicago at first, and he brought this to Los Angeles, to the Jungles, did T. Rogers. Let's continue.
Chicago's Blackstone Rangers. Formed in the late 1950s by teenagers Jeff Fort and Eugene Hairston, the Blackstone Rangers started out as a group of young men wanting to protect themselves from gangs on Chicago's South Side. But the Blackstone Rangers didn't consider themselves a gang. They were a community organization. There was a president, a vice president, even a spiritual advisor. But over time, as membership grew, the Blackstone Rangers evolved into more of a gang than a community organization. The Rangers' influence spread to other gangs on the South Side, who eventually joined them. And together, they became known as the Ranger Nation. And by the late 1960s, the Ranger Nation had become Black P. Stone Nation, ran by different gang leaders called the Main 21. The Main 21 is who gave 13-year-old T. Rogers permission to start a Black P. Stone Nation set in Los Angeles, California.
13 years old. Dang. Started it when he was 13 years old. They gave him permission when he was 13 years old. They had a lot of faith in him. At 13, he had to have been mature for his age and, intelligent and the like, for them to give him permission to start a whole gang in that name and their name out in another state. To go to California and start this gang at 13 years old, they must have laced him up with some things on how to get this done. But there you have it. They started off as individuals, the Rangers, who were protecting the community. This is how most gangs started off, protecting the community. This is what they started for, to protect themselves against the forces and powers that be, and to protect the community. And then as the gangs evolved, as the gangs became bigger, it devolved into something else, into self-destruction.
T. Rogers and his family moved to Los Angeles, California in 1969, moving into the LA neighborhood known as the Jungle. Nicknamed the Jungle in the 1950s because of the area's tropical trees and landscaping, the Jungle was once an exclusive Black middle-class neighborhood. But this exclusive neighborhood was not new to gangs. The Jungle Boys had been claiming the jungle as their territory for years before T. Rogers got there. But with T. Rogers' arrival came the Black P. Stone Nation. The change from the Jungle Boys to the Black P. Stone Nation didn't happen overnight. It started with T. Rogers meeting other kids from the neighborhood. He started sharing with them the knowledge and philosophy of the Black P. Stones and began recruiting them to become members of the Stones Nation. While attending Dorsey High School, T. Rogers recruited more members. Then those members recruited members. And within a few years, the West Coast Black P. Stone Nation had numbers in the hundreds. They also became blood affiliated. But T. Rogers never intended to start a blood affiliated gang. Same as the founders in Chicago, T. Rogers was recruiting to build a community-based organization who would better protect their neighborhood. It was never about being a gang.
See? Well, I've been saying from the beginning, this is what the gangs were about at first. This is why the gang culture was even started. What we now know to be a very self-destructive and murderous culture was ignited. It was started to protect the community. That's why the gangs were started. This is why he went out there and started the Black P. Stones, to protect the community. The Rangers there in Chicago were helping and protecting themselves and the community. And then it went from that to fights with one another to what we now know as genocide, a genocidal culture that hates itself and hates its own people. I know that this is not what this is about, but oh well.
But even as the Black P. Stones evolved into an LA blood gang, T. Rogers continued holding all of its members to the original philosophy of the Black P. Stones. There were rules, such as Black P. Stone members were required to talk, not fight through their disagreements. Members were also not to rape women or mistreat their elders. And there was a street code. It stated that there was to be no shooting of innocent people, no drive-bys on rival gangs, and no killing between other blood sets.
I mean, this is all admirable stuff. Come up with, it's a gang, but it's apparently a peaceful gang. It has a peaceful disposition, and it has rules that it is governed by, and these rules dictate that the same rules that anyone of any upstanding character will have to govern himself. No mistreatment of women, no SN women, yeah. No mistreatment of elderly people, yes. No fighting amongst one another, yes. So forth and so on. And these are the rules that these gangs were living by at first, when they had codes and rules to live by, and an ethics and some sort of moral compass, and were there to protect the community. Then again, as they evolved, or shall I say devolved, into this genocidal culture, all of these rules went out of the window.
Still a teenager, T. Rogers, who was a natural leader and teacher, taught that being organized with a street code meant the Black P. Stones would be better at controlling conflicts with enemies and better at stopping violence in their neighborhood. But by the mid-1970s, Crip and Blood gangs had expanded all throughout Los Angeles with new generations of members who didn't follow the same street code. Gangs grew bigger and more vicious, and the streets got more violent. And as issues developed between the Black P. Stones and rival gangs, T. Rogers found himself in the middle of the violence that comes with being a gang member, in the middle of fights, gang wars, and shootings. And by the time he turned 18, he had been shot 4 times and stabbed twice. By 1975, gangs weren't just protecting their neighborhoods, they were killing each other. And T. Rogers was ready for a change. Tired of seeing people losing their lives, T. Rogers decided he wanted to start saving lives.
They walked him into an alley, okay? In the alley, they set him on fire. He rolled around, he put himself out. They beat him up again, they set him on fire. They put a carpet over him. Took a .45 automatic and put his knee on his back and shot him in the back of the head twice. Boy, 15 years old.
So he created Sidewalk University, a Los Angeles-based gang intervention program. Through counseling and workshops, Sidewalk University classes gave gang members the tools to make life choices for themselves that didn't involve gang violence.
There we go. There have been people trying for many years to get people away from this gang violence and gang culture. He started this some time ago, Sidewalk University. Yes, he came and started a gang at 13, misguided and misdirected, but sort of, because, the gang, as the narrator here intimated, was not designed to be blood or a Crip gang. That was not his intention. It was to protect the community. But it ended up growing, swelling and turning into something else. But he was trying even then to get yes, he started it. So he said, well, it's on me. The onus is on me to help to end this stuff, this situation that I helped to create. This is decades ago, apparently, when he started this Sidewalk University and trying to give young black men a different route and a different alternative and a way out of this violent death culture that we have cultivated for many decades now. Shout out to T. Rogers for trying to intervene and get these young men out of the street. And many people are trying to do that now, including myself, people who helped to create this mess, this genocidal culture. We all need to do something about it. Not help to further it by hanging out in the hood. Ain't hanging out in no hood, nobody's hood. The hell?
In 1988, T. Rogers was contacted by NFL Hall of Famer Jim Brown, who had also started a gang intervention program called the AmeriCAN program.
Our program deals with certain components. One of the components that we deal with is peace. It is a bonding of black men who have stood up and came together. And when they came together, peace has happened to be one of the things on the agenda.
T. Rogers became a national spokesperson for AmeriCAN, a program that not only taught life management skills, but also actively worked in the streets to make peace between warring gangs.
We've always wanted peace. He doesn't want to go to jail. He doesn't want to die. But through the uprising, through the rebellion, we've got a chance to say, hey, look, we came together under this cause. We can make this thing work.
And in 1992, with the combined efforts of the AmeriCAN program, local activists, and LA gang members, a citywide gang truce and peace treaty was established, with several LA gangs agreeing to a ceasefire. This peace treaty successfully reduced gang violence in Los Angeles for years. While working to promote peace in the city, T. Rogers became one of the leading gang experts in Los Angeles. Often referred to as a gangologist, he trained teachers in schools how to deal with gang members. He worked with city officials to develop gang education programs. And he's been quoted in almost every news article referencing gangs and gang violence in LA since the 80s. But T. Rogers wasn't only known for his work in the streets. He was also known for becoming one of the first gang members in LA to work in mainstream movies and television, appearing in over 30 movies, videos, and TV shows. But no matter how famous T. Rogers got, he never left the jungles or stopped helping the community. If you were to have asked someone at the time, how do I find T. Rogers? They'd have told you to just call his phone. He'll answer. Men, women, kids. T. Rogers and his Sidewalk University helped everyone for decades. He helped families get money for bail and funerals. He personally counseled people through abuse and trauma. He wrote books, developed self-help programs. He helped hundreds of gang members in LA find jobs. And the list goes on. Whatever T. Rogers could do to show people a different way other than gang violence, he did it. He even created a board game called Run Gangs Out, made in 1993. From a gang founder and member to his work as an activist and teacher, T. Rogers put in blood, sweat, tears, and over 50 years into the streets. And although he did have his own biological children, he also had a whole community who looked up to him as a father figure. And to them, T. Rogers dedicated his whole life to teaching nonviolence and forgiveness. On August 19, 2021, at the age of 64, T. Rogers passed away. Today, the jungle is officially called Baldwin Village, a name change that happened in the late 80s by the city of...
Damn, really, it's emotional, you know. It's emotional. Really, it's emotional. Clearly, we lost a good brother there. You know, yes, he started the gang at 13 years old. 13. What did he know then? Clearly, you can see why they sent him to start it. Clearly, he's was a brilliant individual. Brilliant. Started a board game. This was in 1993. And as we said, started the Sidewalk University decades ago. He's been onto this, been preaching in peace and get out of the gangs and helping with the community and helping anyone and staying right there in the community. Didn't get too big for himself, didn't get too big for the community. Stood right there, right where he helped start this stuff, start this gang, create this mess. He stood right there and spent the rest of his life trying to undo what he probably felt like he had done, you know, or was at least a big part of creating and doing. The violence and death that these gangs and this gang culture has led to. Shit, man, big shout out to him, man. Spent his life doing this and stayed, just reminds me of like, you know, my uncle or something. Just stayed down, stayed in the community. Didn't, you know, just, he clearly he cared about his community and cared about people and cared about his people, which is all we can ask for from a human being. That you try to right your wrong, redeem yourself, recognize your wrong, recognize your faults, and to try to rectify them while you are still here on earth. Try to clear yourself and clear your name, clear your conscience. He spent his life doing that. He didn't have to do that, but he clearly did. He clearly had a lot of love for his people and tried to get us to walk the right path and to not be violent with one another and to not be involved in gangs. And he stayed right there in the community while doing all of this. Didn't come around preaching now and then. He was right there on the block until his dying day. Wow. That's a lot of love, bro. After being in movies, writing books, you know, running American, created by, you know, of course, football legend Jim Brown. He could have said, I'll come in and help y'all, but I'm not going to be over here. I don't have to live over here. But that's a lot of love that he had for that community and for those people and for us people.
of LA to try and distance the jungles from its gang history. But the Black Peace Stones still exist there. And although work continues to be done in the community to stop gang violence, it too still exists. And T. Rogers is no longer here to help stop it. But the number of lives that T. Rogers changed and saved from violence while he was here is impossible to count. And it's why he'll always be a California legend. Hey everyone.
Damn right. Rest in peace, brother. Rest in peace to T. Rogers, man. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Hey, I don't know. I just have a lot of love and respect for anyone who dedicates their life to their people. Stay safe and stay free, people.